So, Kazuo, you and I watched the anime Berserk,
We sure did, Mitsugi.
the 2016. Now, you've seen the original Berserk, right?
Yes. It has been a while, though, but I definitely saw it back in the day.
I want to start this review by saying how unbelievably unfair it would be to compare anything really to the original Berserk
Sure.
due to how unbelievably transfixing the original series was. The original series of Berserk is such that, and here comes Chiaki delivering
Came out in
tea.
97.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Chiaki. A new glass of apple cider, something or other that's very yummy.
I'm experimenting with fall tea blends. It's an apple cider spice chai.
So every time I turn on Berserk, the original season, and maybe I'm looking for a clip or something for the podcast, I end up watching at least a full episode of it. Because at any given point in the original Berserk, the show is just so good that I always want to keep watching it. Even though I've seen it, I just can't stop. I'm transfixed by the original. Like, you'll remember there's that episode where Guts, Griffith, and the Band of the Hawk find Zod the Immortal.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, he's tearing everybody apart, killing everyone, and then he and Guts have like a crazy duel for a couple minutes, and
Right.
Guts is like the only person to ever wound him.
And this is old school, and this is 97 is when the original came out. So this was all animated, hand drawn, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
How does it hold up? I have never seen any Berserk.
I mean,
It's been a while for me.
yeah, you have to understand that it is older when you're watching it. So
Well,
I mean, it's not,
grew up with that. So.
but it's still, I mean, it's an incredible show. Like it's one of, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows of all time in anime. Like, it's up there.
My personal thought is that it holds up well,
Okay.
and if for no other reason that the only aspect of the original Berserk that wasn't a masterful was the music. Not too good. The music, honestly, if you'll remember, the theme song was legendarily bad.
Right.
But
I will say the music in the new Berserk, pretty good. I like
it's
some
definitely better than the original Berserk in terms of music. Then again, anything would be. But I just want to say that it's not really fair to compare this to the original. It just, nothing is going to be that. It just, they're never going to be able to accomplish
Who was it that sang that song?
I
Nothing
don't-
compares to you.
Oh, I don't know.
No? Okay.
Don't know that one. Anyway, so this next season of Berserk is done by Studio Milipensi.
Huh.
That could be a mispronunciation, but I don't know. And the reason why this is relevant and I'm bringing it up is that this studio classically has only really done moe stuff.
Right. And I believe the director as well has only done like super bubblegum moe light stuff, which is
TQ,
weird. Yeah, it's weird that
Wake
he's
Up
working on
Girls.
Berserk now. And it's like, well, that's not a fit you would think would make sense.
TQ and Wake Up Girls is really all they've done. They also had association with Studio Gemba, whom has done literally nothing other than Berserk. So it's a weird combination here that we're working with.
Yeah. And for those wondering, the director is Shin Itagaki, who has directed Bento, if you remember that.
Yeah.
The show about the people getting the bento boxes in the convenience store after
Pretty fun.
hours.
It's a pretty fun anime. I've done that, so it's kind of fun.
He also directed Black Cat. And the Devil May Cry series that came out a few years back, if you remember that.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I think the Devil May Cry series might be the closest style-wise to Berserk that he's done. Everything else has been pretty light and fluffy. And if you recall, that was not a very good
Not very good.
show.
So the story of Berserk, the second season, takes place directly after the events of the first season of Berserk, which, if you haven't seen it by now, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The statute of limitations is definitely up. It's 20 years old.
I think it takes place 2 years after, if I recall correctly.
I am not sure about that because the first episode of the original Berserk is Guts already as the Black Swordsman. Mm-hmm. So now I could be mistaken.
Well, because I remember, and it's been so long since I've seen the original, so I might be wrong, but when I was watching this show, there's a scene where he goes back and he meets someone, and they talk about how he's been away for 2 years. And if I recall, he last saw those people at the end of the first season.
I I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything.
I know what you're talking about, and I think that if you're talking about the time gap between the 25th episode of Berserk and this new season, I think you're correct. But if you're talking about the time gap between the first episode of Berserk and this new season, I don't think it's 2 years. I just think he hasn't seen that character for a while.
Okay.
I won't say who it is, but it's an old member of the Band of the Hawk.
That's a worthwhile question worth asking, because I am from the redundancy department of redundancy. Is this a show that, because it does take place 2 years or otherwise after the original, where you need to see the original to understand what's going on? How much do you get if you have seen the original?
I would say
You
yeah,
pretty much
definitely.
need to see the original.
Okay.
I mean, you can watch it without seeing the original, but you're definitely gonna have to Google some stuff.
It's not going to make sense to you whether you've seen the original or not, so tee-hee. Yeah, so Guts is the Black Swordsman, and at the end of the original season of Berserk, there is some kind of like demonic festival
Right.
that happens in which Griffith, the leader of the Band of the Hawk, is chosen. And by the way, I apologize. I don't have a PhD on Berserk. I'm just doing my best.
We do have some breaking news.
Oh, we do?
The song "Nothing Compares to You" was sung by Sinead O'Connor.
Oh, my God.
That's all.
Whom I also don't know. So Griffith is chosen as one of the like legendary, he's like a god demon.
Yeah, the God Hand or something like that.
And essentially the demons kind of wash over the earth and kill a lot of people.
Right.
And viciously,
Horrifyingly.
horrifyingly.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
like some of the most insane graphic moments you ever see in
And
an
it's-
anime,
and
complete
it's-
with rapes.
Yeah.
And
it's not just
oh my
visually
God.
graphic, it's like emotionally scarring. Like some of the I remember watching the original series and especially at the end of it when that all goes down, it's like, holy crap, dude, this is so dark.
Well, plus a lot of the characters in the original Berserk are quite likable.
Yeah.
Like Pippin,
Well,
the big guy.
Yeah. To
And-
kind of spoil the original series, which again, it came out 20 years ago.
It's very old.
Or-
and
yeah.
you should watch it. Even if we spoiled it, you should watch it.
So to kind of spoil that, the whole show, it's building up this relationship with this group, the Band of the Hawk, and they're all friends and they're having a great time and they're overcoming stuff and growing together. And at the end, everyone gets horribly slaughtered.
Except a couple people.
And it's
A few
like,
people
it just
live, but-
breaks your heart because you're like grown to love these characters so much.
Guts loses an arm. Casca gets viciously raped
Cuts
by
his own
demons.
arm off.
Yeah, he cuts his own arm off to keep trying to kill the demons. Guts is,
Such a badass.
oh my God, he's insanely badass. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'd love to see Geist and Guts have a fight.
Guts.
Geist would still kill him.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Guts is walking around as the Black Swordsman, hunting down the apostles, the higher up level demons that he's seeking revenge against the demons. They've branded him with this brand that you see in the first episode of the original season.
Yeah.
It's like this weird hourglass looking thing.
It's basically like a magnet for demons. So like demons are constantly haunting him and he can't escape them. He's branded.
There's like a line in the original Berserk where they say, as they're haunting him, that his flesh, his blood, his soul, his desires, even his fears all belong to the demons.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really dark.
Yeah.
I mean, some really intense dark imagery. And this kind of picks up right where that leaves off. In the first episode of the original season, he kills that giant snake monster. You remember, with the quick,
Oh, yeah. With the
in the town.
right.
Well, this picks up right. It's the same thing. It's just he's hunting down more and more demons, and along the way, he tries to wrap up some loose ends from his past, which I'll sort of we can talk about later. But it is a CG anime.
Yes.
So how did you feel about the way that it looked? And if you want, you could compare it to like Knights of Sidonia, I
Right.
suppose.
So you do have to take into account that it's a CG anime. And I know for some elitist anime fans that will immediately turn them off of it because, CG's not
What?
anime. But whatever.
CG?
But there are certainly very good CG anime, like Knights of Sidonia, like Ajin, which we watched recently. I will say, though, watching this show, the CG was supremely subpar. I
Okay.
was thoroughly unimpressed by the CG in this show. I mean, it was offensive, really. It was to CG anime what Dragon Ball Super is to regular anime. Maybe not that bad, but it was not good.
I think the actual visual appeal of the CG was not what most people are going to be looking for,
Right.
but I thought it moved okay.
Yeah.
Like this anime moves way better than Sweetness and Lightning. Something like that.
I mean, Sweetness and Lightning isn't an action show with people
So what?
slaughtering demons.
I mean, like
They're sitting at a table
HBK
eating.
Euphonium's not an action show either, but that studio is known for its animation. So
I think the director was getting very experimental with this because I believe this is the first CG show he's worked on. I mean, just looking at his backlog, his history of shows he's done. I think he was getting very experimental with the medium of CG. You know, with CG, you have a lot more freedom with movement, not just for the characters, but with the camera. And there were definitely quite a few shots. He had a lot of like sweeping shots, and some of it was very interesting, like perspectives, but then some of it was kind of jarring and unnecessary. I feel like he was just playing around with it, and you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it didn't. At least in my opinion.
So I didn't mind the CG too much. I think I kind of got used to it, and by the end of the show, I was okay with it. But I know a lot of people will just hear the words "it's CG" and won't tune in.
Yeah.
Period.
Sure.
End of story. But I also think that much like, even more so than Knights of Sidonia or Ajin, I think they tried to make it look more hand drawn. It has more of a rough look at times. But I understand that a lot of people will not want to watch it simply because it's CG, and that's fine. That's fine. There's like a ton of shows every season that aren't CG. You can go watch those. It's perfectly fine.
Well, just reading the chat now, Josh Caleb is talking about that they're redoing and removing a lot of the CG in the Blu-ray release. So I guess they're touching it up and fixing a lot of stuff.
And they need to put the, I hate to be so crass, but they need to put the nips back on the girls. Because there's a
They
lot
had
of
them sometimes.
It's a lot of, what?
I mean, not really, but when they were seeing like side boob shots, you would see a little protrusion where the nip would be.
There's like naked chicks everywhere in this anime, and none of them have nipples. It's very odd.
It was weird.
It throws me off a great deal.
Well, and nobody...
It's not even a sexual thing. I just want a person to look normal when they're
Yeah.
naked. It looks weird having a person with no nipples on,
Well,
whether they're
and
man or woman.
Free the nipple.
Yeah, there were a lot of naked dudes too, and none of them they all had Ken doll syndrome. So...
Right.
Do you ever think the sexualization of the nipple is really odd?
It is. It's super weird.
Sorry, tangent.
Yeah.
Just
It really doesn't make any sense.
You want to sit in on a hentai episode with us and talk about the sexualization of the nipple?
I think I'm too dull for your hentai episode.
Oh, well, we could help make you less dull.
Thank you.
That's creepy.
Okay.
I'm just joking.
So I started out really not liking this anime very much. I'll be honest. It was not making sense and seemed pointless as Guts just walks around slicing things in half and blood spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
And by the end of the show, I sort of was piecing together it at least felt like Berserk, as they brought some of the major characters from the first season back and some of the events that were happening towards the end, while seemingly making no sense whatsoever. They were somewhat resembled the original Berserk, and I hated it a little less by the end.
There were some characters that really pissed me off, though, and it's not. And
The little blonde helpless girl.
her, even the fairy and the little kid at
Puck.
times, because you could tell it was as if they took the original series and they were like, we need to make this more. We need to have this be where more little kids will be into it, and we can sell toys and stuff like that. Let's put a little fun fairy in there who makes funny faces, and a little kid who we can market as a shonen character, and it was just so obnoxious. And they would have these moments in between all this super intense, all these super intense moments, and then you would have like a little kid make a funny face and throw a rock at someone. You're like, come on.
So the little boy's name is Ishidoro, and I agree he seemed very out of place. And I honestly think the show would be better off and would function largely the same if he hadn't been in it.
The original Berserk would have killed him, killed the fairy,
Absolutely.
killed the annoying girl.
Yep.
But
No questions.
It's like this was Berserk light.
Well,
You know what I
yeah,
think
I guess so.
is always a really interesting test when you're looking at a story and its characters is, will the story function the same if you remove character, plot point, story arc, whatever? And if the answer is yes, then it probably should be edited out.
Yeah.
Good editing would dictate that it should probably be edited out.
Right. The chat is saying the fairy was in the manga as well, but but they do say he was also annoying in the manga. So,
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it was Berserk light in the sense that they would have certainly have killed those characters.
Oh yeah.
But I think that the violence in this anime season was very Berserk-like. There was some very crazy stuff happening.
There was, except there was a lot of that. Whenever it would get too violent, they would do the whole like blacked out sections of the screen thing.
Really? I didn't notice that all that much.
A lot. Like
Really?
whenever it got super gory, it would just be completely blacked out.
How about those hideous scenes in the torture rooms at the end? That felt very Berserk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was watching.
Those were pretty hideous. That
was
was some graphic stuff.
I was watching it on Crunchyroll, but I don't think they have any say over whether or not something gets blacked out, do they?
I don't know.
So,
they could have taken Ishidodo out and had Judo, whom is the guy that he meets that he's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a couple years. One of the Band of the Hawk members.
oh yeah.
He could have just gone with him and played that role and not been such a derp.
Yeah. Well, and then that girl that I was actually rooting for her to die.
The blonde girl?
I was like, please
I don't know
kill
how
her.
she survived.
Please someone kill her.
But I thought that the show, I started to like it more as it got more gritty. I mean, honestly, it felt very Berserk when they were leading the people that were going to be tortured into that torture room. And there's just a whole room of people butt naked being ripped apart and hanging on all kinds of these really exotic looking torture devices. Like they open up an Iron Maiden and like a woman's body falls out of it and there's just blood pouring out of her. And it was really, those couple episodes were really, really amongst some of the grittier things I've seen in several years.
So I don't want to give the wrong image of Berserk because certainly there's a lot of real gruesome stuff in the original series and subsequently in this series, but that's not really the point of Berserk. Berserk is not just like gore porn. Berserk is
it felt like gore porn at times.
Right, but the reason why the original series affected you so strongly was because you spent so much time building relationships with these characters. And the reason why you were able to build these relationships with these characters was because they felt like real people. And you got to know them and you became part of the Band of the Hawk as you watch the show. You relate to these people, you see them grow together and in their own ways. And then a whole bunch of messed up stuff happens. And that's why it affects you so much. But in this show, it was like, I just didn't like anybody, so I didn't really care when they died. I was like, well, whatever. Sucks to be you. I mean, that's really messed up stuff. But
yeah, and other than, I'm going to play the spoiler drop because I'm going to drop a couple spoilers.
Okay.
But really, this show, it's...
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
I think this is one of those anime where people will either watch it because it's Berserk and they want to keep up with it, or they won't watch it because it's CG, or they won't watch it because they didn't see the original Berserk. There will be no gray area at all.
Yeah, I would agree.
So Guts does find Casca.
And she's practically a vegetable.
But yeah, basically mentally shut down entirely because she was hideously raped. There's no soft way to say it. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It was like watching a cut from the most vicious hentais you could come across, where like hundreds of demons are just ripping people's limbs apart and drinking their blood and raping the women.
Yeah.
In a scene that was totally uncensored and would never happen today. It would never fly, 100%. Not even close. So she's totally justified in being being completely mentally locked up. I don't know how else to put it. She's broken.
Yeah.
I would be sad if she died. And Casca, a very attractive character. Even though they've set her back to like a 4-year-old's mental state.
Yeah, if that.
She's still beautiful.
Sure.
But for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can get why Guts,
well, it's also like the only family he has is her.
Yeah, and Judo probably.
And Judo,
who is a very cool character and needed to be in the anime a lot more.
Yeah, and he just kind of is like Guts just shows up and he's like, "All right, bro, catch you later." That's it. Like this is one of the only family that you have, and he's just like, "See you in a couple years, I guess, whatever."
Yeah, Judo was a cool guy.
Yeah,
and one of the few that survived from the first season, and I kind of wanted him to come along, but This is following the manga, so I guess most people that read the manga probably knew he wouldn't go. But how did you feel about the whole religious thing?
I liked it enough.
Because every religious thing in this anime is completely corrupt. 100%.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we want to get into that. But almost every religious thing in this world is corrupt.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to... I mean, that wasn't
it's
where
not
I was
far
going
from,
with it.
It's not far from accurate when you look at the... what's that period of time called?
The Crusades.
The Crusades, yeah. It's actually quite accurate. So...
It is what it is. I mean, but in real religions, people aren't turning into demons.
Well, no.
And they're actually demons, even though
that's the fantasy element. But there's certainly people during the Crusade period where there was a class system, and those on the lower end of that class system were not living well.
And it was also really convenient that the places that they went to happened to have wealthy objects that they were like, oh, no. You sinners, you can't have this.
Right. So, I mean, that was, interesting enough, and I think well enough done. It pissed me off a lot. I'll tell you that. Like a lot of the blind faith of a lot of these people. But I mean, honestly, that's reality.
My thought of this anime's plot towards the end was that the world is filled with broken, hopeless people and people who are trying to sweep that hopelessness under the rug by killing more people. Mm-hmm. And the world needs to be reset.
Yeah.
And so I
think a lot of people would argue that's not too far from accurate from the real world.
And you have the egg of the king or whatever, who's a living thing, talking about how the rebirth is coming. And so, what is the big pink ooze from Ghostbusters type of stuff?
I have no idea.
So this liquid starts moving around that has souls inside of it. I think it's the embodiment of people's misery or something that is eating everyone, straight up Parasite Eve style. And at the end of the season, massive spoiler here.
Yeah.
Griffith is reborn.
Right.
And Zod the Immortal kneels in front of him, whom that's pretty impressive considering Zod the Immortal is.
Yeah.
Like a giant Balron.
Right. It was weird. A lot of stuff, especially towards the end, just kind of happened out of nowhere and didn't really explain itself in any way. Like when that pink ooze showed up, it was like, wait, why is this here?
Yeah, it started pouring out of Casca's brand.
I guess. And then it was like, oh, this is so dangerous. But then as soon as the sun came up, it went away. So it was like, I guess it's not that dangerous. It's only dangerous at the night this one time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The fight scene with the guy, with the leader of the religious group, and Guts at the end, pretty badass.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but then that also raises questions. Where the hell did he get his power?
Well,
all of a sudden he turns into this giant...
I just think he was a demon.
Was he?
I think so.
Was everybody else on his team also demons? Because they all had powers. Huh?
I think so. It's just like how in the first episode of the first season when that guy turns into a snake, he's like a political guy or a king or...
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed kind of weird and it didn't really explain it at all. So I guess you kind of just, I don't know, think whatever you want.
It somewhat resembles some RPGs I've played where, Final Fantasy Tactics, for example, is a great example of this. You'll have actually a very good example. You'll have a religious figure like a priest or a whatever you want to say, a pope or something, ruling a church. And then you travel to that church and you're confronting him, and he turns into a demon and fights you. This anime actually has a lot of similarities to Final Fantasy Tactics. Now that I'm thinking about it, so
okay.
The concept of religious or high level political figures turning into monsters or demons, and they've kind of sold their soul for power, isn't really all that unique, but it's definitely in Berserk for sure.
Right. I mean, it was interesting at the end to see Griffith come back, and I know there's going to be another season of this next year. So we'll see more of that. It was also interesting to see, what's his name? The Skull Knight.
What the hell was the Skull Knight guy?
You don't remember him? He was in the original series.
Was he?
Yeah, he actually saved Guts at the end of the original series, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I don't remember him at all.
Yeah.
But it's been quite a long time.
Yeah, he's I forget his story, but he's like some badass demon hunter undead dude as well,
Okay.
who helped Guts out in the original series and came back and helped some chick and then left. So I don't know what he was there to do. Oh
Yeah.
no, actually he went and he retrieved one of the egg things and then kind of like was like, I'm not gonna help you guys out anymore, and just hung out on the sidelines.
So what kind of score would you give this anime?
Oh, we're getting there already?
Well, we're at that time.
Oh, wow.
Much.
Man,
Yeah.
it's tough. This is not it's not a good show. Like, I mean, honestly, unless you're a huge Berserk fan, that's the only person I would recommend this to. Like, if you are not familiar with Berserk, there's no reason to watch this at all. Like, I would definitely recommend you go back and watch the original series, but you don't need to watch this if you're not a big fan already.
But would you say, and I apologize for interrupting you, but would you say that someone who is an original Berserk fan and loves the original dearly maybe shouldn't watch this?
Yeah,
Because
I would
it
probably-
might break their heart a bit.
I would read the
don't
manga
know.
instead.
I don't know that
Okay.
I don't know that I really agree with that. I think that if someone's looking to continue the story
Yeah,
in an anime format, you have no other option.
yeah. It's
Really?
only 12
So-
episodes, so I mean,
It's not that long. It may not be what you want, but you will probably get something out of it just being a fan of the original.
sure.
It's something.
And it's going to continue. They said, I think spring of 2017 is when the next season comes out. So, you know, I guess
I'll probably
given-
watch that also.
Yeah. So I guess I would give it the most tentative, like, pass that I could possibly give. Like, to be like, I guess watch it if you really want to, but I'm not going to recommend it to anyone outright. Man, it sucks to say this for Berserk, but I would give it like a 2.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the original Berserk is like a 4.5,
Yeah.
probably.
Probably. Yeah.
And I would say that a 4.5, that is like certain aspects of that anime are easy 5s.
Oh, yeah.
But then there's certain things about the original season that I would say, well, not quite a masterpiece. So
Right.
4.5. I would say that this new season, while disappointing, isn't a total loss. And I would give it probably a 3 nipless opis out of 5.
3 Niflis 05. That's awesome.
It's kind of an average show for me. I wanted it to be so much more, though.
Yeah. But it's for a very specific audience.
Yes, very specific.
Yeah.
It doesn't really cater to new people, to new viewers at all. So if you're someone who knows nothing about Berserk, you will feel completely and utterly confused the entire show. I promise you that.
And even if you've seen Berserk, you might still be confused.
You might still be confused, yeah.